Welcome everyone to Creating Inclusive Archery Competitions. I'm Pete Sisson from Deer Park. Just a bit of background for me. I've been involved in archery for about 11 years now. I've been competition organizer for the last 5 years, but I've been involved in inclusive archery for the last probably 7 or 8 years. If I'm speaking a bit fast, then do please tell me to slow down, and I will do questions at the end. But if anything comes up as we're going along that you want to ask, just give me a shout or raise your hand within the chat window and we can have a chat about those things. Okay, so thank you for coming along today. Let's just share my screen so we can see what we're doing. There we go. And there is James and there is Stuart Stubble. And that is from our inclusion shoot last weekend. So let's have a look at what we are going to be doing tonight. We're going to be looking at why we want to run inclusion shoots. We're going to look at how we run an inclusion shoot. We're going to look through the planning stages that we need to do. So beforehand, the venue and scheduling, the preparation and the organisation for the shoot itself, and how to deliver that shoot and what things you might need to think about on that day. Then we're going to look at the future of inclusion shoots, which I hopefully some of you are going to come on board and we can run for next year. And then questions and answers. So hopefully that works for everyone. So the first thing I want to talk about is why we run inclusion shoots. So people need to think about the percentage of the UK population that have a disability. I don't know if anyone wants to have a suggestion as to a percentage, but according to the 2024 stats, 16.1 million people in the UK have a disability, so 24% of our population, and it's a number that is going up and will continue to go up. The types of ages of disability, obviously, as we get older, we tend to have more people that are classified as disabled. I think there was one of the charities mentioned a phrase of not calling people not disabled, but mentioning that they are not yet disabled, because at some point these things will come to all of us. And the third thing to mention on this page is about the types of disability that people suffer from. If we think about those different areas, and they have their own different challenges, mobility wise, we'll need to think about their access to the facility, and the collecting of arrows and the space, and making sure that toilets that are accessible are available. For stamina, again, it may be reducing the amount of movement they need to do, or shorter rounds. Some people would be able to focus or have physical activity for an hour and a half, but they wouldn't be able to sustain the 3 hours shooting every other end. So maybe they might prefer a single detail. This all ties back to the medical model of disability and the social model of disability. With the medical model, people are seen as having the individual with the disability it's their problem, really, which is the way people quite often look at it. They have to make the solutions for themselves. What we're looking to go towards is the social model of disability, where society is the thing that needs to change to make sure that the barriers are removed for everyone, not just people with a disability, because these things will help everyone as we're going along. According to Archery GB's website, 5% of the members have an identifiable disability. This number is obviously much higher in actual terms. There are lots of people that don't identify as disabled, or that are not seen as disabled, but do have impairments which hinder their ability to take part in various activities. At Deer Park, we have 206 members, of which 30 of them are recorded to have a disability. So we're on almost 15%, which is 3 times as high as Archery GB suggests it should be. And I'm sure your clubs all have similar figures. So what we want to do by running inclusive shoots is giving archers with disability that priority and that opportunity to shoot at competitions where often they're not seen as the priority. Often people are thinking, oh, if I let someone on to stay on the line archer, that's money I've lost. because I can't get the second archer in. We want to make these competitions as accessible for everyone as we can, get people to shoot their first competition, build up their confidence to take part in future competitions across a whole range of settings. So our inclusion shoot goes all the way back to 2014. It's run every year, apart from during COVID, unfortunately. We've had a number of different venues and a number of different formats before we settled on our current one, which we'll talk about in a little while. And it is genuinely one of the most fun events that we do over the course of the year. It's lovely to see the mix of different people we have. There's people like in this picture here of Roger, who have been with us at every single event, and then we have lots of people that are new and come along to their first event, whether it's their first event completely or whether it is their first one outside of their club. It's great to see people coming and taking part. And we do need to thank the Worshipful Company of Fletchers for their fantastic support over the years. They helped us get the competition off the ground and supported us in venue hire and things for the first few years before we changed what we did, and it meant that it covers its own funding now. So that is the why we do inclusion shoots. Let's have a look at how to plan them and what we need to think about beforehand. So first thing to say is that if you have an indoor venue, your indoor venue is accessible. It has to be by law under the 2010 Equality Act, and including the Disability Discrimination Act. If it's not accessible, then we shouldn't be using it in the first place. Most of us will shoot in leisure centres or sports halls, which will have that access because they're open to the public at other times of the year or other times of the day. Outdoor venues can be a little bit trickier, but if you plan ahead carefully, you can make sure that you have everything you need, which is the things we'll talk about shortly. So that is our hall at Balcarras in Cheltenham, where we run our indoor events at the moment. So there are not many inclusive shoots, unfortunately. We've run 2 this year. It would be great to see a lot more, and we'll talk about that as we go through. But it is always worth checking with Archery GB to make sure that there are no other events on. Unfortunately, this year they did clash with the Para Pathway at Lilleshall, which meant we lost some of the archers. But with I don't have that many dates, it shouldn't be too difficult to find a date that doesn't clash with another event. Other things to think about is session timing, making sure that the sessions that you offer will suit the archers. If you've got archers coming from all over the country, a range of times gives them the chance to, if they want to stay the night before, to come and shoot early and then get home. Others might need to travel down or need extra time to travel down, or need to be able to use public transport. So making sure that all those options are available, especially if it's a Sunday shoot, getting down on the bus or the train can be difficult to get to your venue, especially when you have mobility issues. And when you're scheduling your sessions, making sure that it may take extra time. It probably won't, but there may be stoppages or things that you haven't thought about on the day that make the shoot run not quite as quickly as it may do normally. So getting your entries, and there's Stuart. Get that date out there as early as you possibly can so that people can put it in their diary. Our inclusion shoot for next February is just waiting on a record status to be confirmed by Archery GB, and then that will be on sale. Think about who you can share that with. Gail and Stuart will be fantastic in getting those dates out and getting it to the right people, and contacting disability archer groups like the British Blind Sport Group. They will help you to get to the archers that you are targeting for these events. We often contact our local clubs and ask them if they have any archers that they think may be interested, so that we can get as many local people involved as possible, and do share that information with other clubs. We have lots of archers that come to us with various disabilities that we could share the information with about your event when you decide to put one on. So getting entries is one of the things that you might worry about, and you might think, well, if I put one of these shoots on, what if people don't come? well, you are highly likely to fill your shoot. What we do is we have a priority window for archers with a disability for up to 6 weeks before. So they get to have that option to buy in their place. Other people can pre-register and say, I'm interested if there are any spaces left. And then 6 weeks before, we do put the remaining places on sale. With our February event that happened last week, out of the 48 places, when it came to go on open sale on January the 1st of this year, there was one place left. You always get a few dropouts as well. So it's having that list of people that are interested can just make sure your event is full. And having some archers that are not archers with disability can sometimes help as well, in terms of getting the scoring done and collecting arrows, because they may not be able to bring their own agent. So it's always good to have a mix of different people and experiences at your competition. So that is the scheduling and venue consideration. Then we're going to think about organisation. So with this one, judges are really important for this. Your judges may not have much experience of flipped Jamil in. There we go. Your judges may not have very much experience of working with archers with disability. So it's a case of recruiting the right judges and giving them the time and the opportunity and to research what is allowed and what isn't, so that when it comes to the day and someone comes in with an adaptation, they're not going to say, I don't know if that's legal. Are they allowed to use that? So they know what to expect. You may also need to discuss with your judges any changes to the shooting structure. We're not going to be changing the rules of shooting, but you may need to think about whether it is a single detail event. Again, might be for people that can't sustain physical activity over a longer time, but also we run three single detail sessions, sorry, because it means we could have 48 stay on the line archers and that wouldn't cause any issues because everyone can shoot and everyone can stay on the line if they need to. You may need to discuss the needs of some archers that may require some additional support as we're going through, but you do need to be aware of GDPR. Make the archers or their carers aware of your desire to share this information and check that it is okay with them beforehand. There may be archers that have certain triggers that you need to mention to the judges, that if you approach them in this way, it won't set them off. If you approach them in this way, they will be more responsive and be able to maintain regulation. So inclusion shoot classes are always quite an important thing. If you have, say, 48 archers, you may well have 48 different classes. That's not a huge issue, because at the end of the day, what you want is everyone to come along and have a good time, shoot well, enjoy themselves. So the classes is really up to the archers. Although only 5% of them are likely to have a classification, for an inclusion shoot, ask the archers what they consider to be their inclusion details. For a lot of them, they won't yet be classified. So it's a case of where is the best place to put them. Let's say, as before, we let that priority access in. When we let that priority access for anyone who is defined as disabled using the Equality Act, which is you are disabled if you have a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial and long-term negative effect on your ability to do normal daily activities. So we ask people, if you identify as this, that is absolutely fine, we will let you in. And let you have that early access. And a lot of these archers, they will appear in open categories, but some of them will want to be more specific in what their category is. So as you can see in this slide, when we had our competition last week, we had an awful lot of categories. So generally people are going in the open men or open women unless they have a specific detail that they want to go into another category. And you will find quite a lot of people will just say, no, I'm happy to be in the open category anyway, but it's best to give the archers that option. How you name the categories is also really important. If you look at our Invictus men and Invictus women category, Officially, this is the wounded, injured, or sick service personnel and veterans category, but that is quite a mouthful to put into there. So we spoke to the archers and they said they wanted to have that category called Invictus. And if you look at the ones sort of down here, IIW, officially the phrase that is used for the classification is intellectual impairment, which isn't something I would ever want to see on a target list. I think that's quite dismissive and doesn't give the archers the dignity that they have. However, that is their category, and so we choose to use the initials rather than the full words just to make it more dignified. Something to be aware of here is the II3 category. If you were to go online and look at Virtus, who are a sporting group that help various athletes with disability, and they have their own classifications. And an II3 category is a form of autism, which has an effect on people's daily activities. It's something which is not widely recognised at the moment, but is something that we would like to see more of. I'm a teacher myself, and we see an awful lot of people with this diagnosis coming through. And it is nice to be able to give them the opportunity to have their own success and have their own category where they're not going to be competing against people who don't have the same issues, which may affect their ability to maintain concentration through that shoot. Key things there is to make sure you ask the right questions on your entry form, because it will get you the information that you need. Hello, Fiona, I can see you've got your hand up. Hi.
Yeah, sorry. Is there any way that we can get a list of those? Or are you sharing these slides afterwards?
I am sharing these slides with you.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. No problem. Yeah, so getting that information is really important, particularly stay on the line, although if you do single detail, it doesn't matter anyway on that one. And are they likely to be bringing their own agent, or do you need to provide them? Because obviously you can end up with quite a few agents being needed at an inclusion event. Once you've got your entries, you then need to think about your target list. And there are a group of people you need to think about here. You need to think about the archers, because obviously they are the most important people there, but the judges also need to be considered. From the questions that you've asked, do any of the archers have additional needs, whether that is space or sort of more quiet areas at either ends of the line, or access to toilets, whether they might need to go more often? And is there when you're thinking about putting people together, making sure there's enough room that wheelchairs and mobility scooters are able to move around and get back to their spaces if they choose to go up to the target without causing any obstructions or accidentally reversing over someone's kit, which we nearly had at one of the events. Hello, Carol.
Hi, sorry, it may just be my sort of not understanding, but what is the difference between open men and standing men?
Right, sorry, okay. So standing means that they shoot from a stool generally. Open men is right, so any men with it's not necessarily with a disability, but in this case, any men that are choosing to shoot in the general category.
Right, I didn't realise standing meant on a stool, so no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Not a problem. Right, well, we've gone through that one. Okay, so then also, as you're designing this list, do you have any archers with a hearing impairment that need to be able to see that timing system properly, because they're not necessarily going to hear things as quickly, any calls, or seeing the timer, hearing the whistles coming, so making sure that they're available. Is there at least one person who is going to be able to score on each target? It might be you have to stay on the line archers. If they've got their own agents, that's great, they can go and do that. If not, then you might need to provide someone, or they might need to pair up with another boss that does have archers that are able to go down to the target to ensure that the scores are being double checked, 2 sets recorded, whether it's on double sets on paper or a paper and PDA, to meet up with the record status requirements. And this is one that I hadn't thought about at all. I had a chat with the judges after our November event, is making sure that the judges have a clear view of the whole shooting line. I'd put stay on the line VI archers in front of the judges, which meant they couldn't see the far ends. which is not something I'd thought about, so I never sit at the judges' table and look for them. So it's something else to think about. So all of our VI archers at our events last weekend were on targets 7 or 8 on the far right hand side to avoid that problem. And then on the day, do you have, or as you're getting ready, have you got field crew that are available to act as agents? They can field crew as well. So it's not a case of we have to do one or the other, but they can collect the arrows and then make sure the bosses are all back in the right place and change the faces in the meantime. They may not have done any agenting before, and they may not be aware of what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. So we have spoken to the judges and asked them to do a little briefing for sort of first-time agents as to where they're allowed, so not in front of that 1 meter line, what they're allowed to do in terms of coaching. They're not. What advice they can give them after collecting. Just making sure that you are preventing any problems before they start. And is the information you make available accessible to everyone? If you email it out in advance, or plenty in advance, then people have generally got their own ways of accessing that, whether it's through voice to text or whatever, or someone that can read it to them. But on the day, if you've got any hearing impaired archers that aren't able to listen to or able to hear the briefing, make sure a copy is available so they can have a read through in advance, so they know exactly what you are saying and have access to the same information as everyone else. Something else I didn't always think about is the height of the signs on the wall. If you've got archers arriving in wheelchairs and you've put the target lists up at the height of a standing person, they're not going to be able to see it. So making sure that things are low enough that everyone is able to see. I'm providing copies there. Something else that we've done, and we haven't actually had to use yet, thankfully, is a visual aid for fast calls. So we have a rugby ball with fast written on it, and we've shown archers with hearing impairments before they've shot. If something happens, this ball might be thrown across the line in front of you, so that if you don't hear a whistle, there is something there to tell you to stop shooting. And it's best to introduce that before you need it, rather than suddenly, why is someone throwing a rugby ball across in front of me when I'm at full draw? If you're shooting at, say, a leisure centre, is there a way to make sure you can get additional disabled spaces? So talk to the management. They may be able to block off some extra spaces for you, bearing in mind the profile of this event that you're going to be putting on. They may be able to adapt the heating, because although it may be warm enough for an archer who's doing lots of moving around, a stay on the line archer may well end up getting colder because they're not going to be having that moving around in between each section. Although I must say our venue didn't do very well at that at the last event. And sending out information in advance, make sure that everyone can be prepared. It allows the archers to say, actually, no, that's not the category I want to be in, and for you to move those things around beforehand rather than get to the day and then have lots of changes to make. Okay, so next we're on to delivering the shoot on the day. What differences there are to a traditional shoot. So I'm assuming that most of you have shot a traditional shoot before, so it's just how we make this into an inclusion shoot. So making sure you have got those field crew and those agents that may well need to give a hand in getting things out of people's cars and getting things in. With all the will in the world, you may have a lot of archers that have blue badges, and so access to those spaces very near to the building are going to be at a premium. But it might be that an archer can drive up, you can help them unload, bring their stuff in for them, and then they can park just a little bit further away, and then you can support them in getting their stuff back to their car as well at the end. There we go. And help to settle nerves by introducing archers to their shooting partners and their agents as they come in. We've all been places where we didn't know anyone else, and we think everyone there already knows each other, and we know how nervous that makes us. So imagine doing that, and it's your first competition, and you've travelled halfway across the country. You don't have anyone there with you. It's going to be particularly nerve-wracking. You need to settle people's nerves before they start shooting. Once they're there, point out where all those important things are that we take for granted. Where are the toilets? Where are the refreshments? Is there anything else I need to know? and have a chat with the archers. What experience have they got of competitions before? Do they need showing how to use the PDAs for scoring? Do they need a demonstration of the traffic light timing system? If we can show them this now, when there isn't that pressure of I'm about to start shooting, it's something else to take the nerves away and give them the best opportunity to achieve as they can. And be flexible. If you notice something when people arrive that, oh, actually they hadn't told me about that, but I think if I swap them from A to B, that gives them much more space to put their equipment, then be flexible. Let them do that, but never impose that. Always ask, because they may well have practiced for a particular side, and particularly for VI archers, that could be a change that they really don't want to make. So that is how to deliver the shoot. And next, going to have a look at the inclusion series. So, as I said before, we held our first inclusion shoot back in 2010, and we've run it every year. And every year we have people come from all over the country. And it was in 2023, one of the archers said to me that apart from the disability championships, which Archery GB put on, and our event, there just weren't any other opportunities for them to take part in inclusive events. And I thought, this needs something doing about it. So we decided to put on the inclusion series. Now this year it's been a Deer Park inclusion series. So we had a shoot back in November, and we had a shoot in February, both UK record status Portsmouth. And we worked with the handicap team at AGB and with Gail to build a fair way to compare archers across a wide range of disabilities. So what we decided was that each archer can shoot as many of the Portsmouth sessions as they like, and their best score would be used to create a handicap. So here is just a sample of the handicaps. So if an archer shooting a compound shot 585, their handicap would be 10, for example. This then leads to an outdoor shoot on the 20th of July upcoming, which is a national round where archers can choose their own distance for anything from a national 60 down to a national 20. It's completely up to them, and there is no pressure to make anyone shoot at a particular distance. However, the handicap that they have earned from the indoor shoot gives them a target score to go for the outdoor shoot. And whoever gets the closest to or exceeds that target will become the inaugural inclusion series champion. So if we have a look at that, our archer shooting a compound that shot 10 is going to have to shoot a perfect round. Whenever they shoot a 60 down to a 20, whatever they're going to do, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference to their score. Let's have a look at that with some actual archers that have shot here. So we can see on the left-hand side, we've got their scores from the Portsmouth. So here, I've taken their names off, but this is available online anyway. Their best Portsmouth score on a single face was 445, which gives them a target of 65. A handicap of 65. They've signed up to do the national 60, which means their score is 354. So if they shoot 354, they've equaled their handicap. They would do better than someone who has target was 631 and shot, say, 620, because they've got closer to their score. And these are the other people that could potentially take part. We have our February 8th, 2026 event booked in ready, and we're just waiting on that record status. I was hoping it was going to be in, hence it says confirmed. And while we are more than happy to run this series, what I'm hoping today will do is make you realise that this is something that we can all do. And I would like to see other clubs across the country run their own inclusion events that we can then feed into a national final. In my opinion, there is no reason that archers should have to travel from miles and miles across the country just to come and take part in a Portsmouth where everyone has the ability to put that Portsmouth on. And then we can still have it all lead into a national final, and that venue could rotate through a series of different clubs that were interested. And so if you were interested in hosting an event that you think could contribute towards the 2025-26 series, please do send me an email, and my email address will come up at the end of this. But we would like to see a number of events. If no one else takes it on, then we will happily still do 2 events and a final, because I think it is really important to give archers with a disability the opportunity to shoot and take part in competitions that they want to take part in, and they're seen as the priority for. Our final is on the 20th of July. Everyone is welcome to come along and see that shoot on that day and see our first champion get crowned if you would like to. So we have gone through all of those things.